Just coming on here super quickly to talk about my reaction to the Giller Prize shortlist that was announced today. The shortlist was announced this morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, which means it was 7:30 a.m. Pacific time for me, which normally would actually be really perfect because I don't really leave the house until closer to 8:30 to get to work, but I had a blood donation appointment this morning, so I had to be at the door before 7:30. So I was watching this live stream at the bus stop and on the bus, and I was really hoping that the winners, or well, the shortlist rather, would be announced before I made it to my appointment because I didn't want to delay that and then be late to work. And luckily it was. And I'm pretty excited about the shortlist because two of the books on it are books that I'd already read, and two others are books that I had recently bought with the intention of reading soon. And though I still hope to check out some of the other long-listed books that weren't nominated for the shortlist, I'm really happy that I might actually be able to finish the whole shortlist before the prize is awarded on November 13th. It is just 5 books. I don't know why I thought it was 6. I did check out the shortlist and long list last year, but for some reason I thought that it was 6 books. But anyway, this is in no particular order. I don't really remember exactly how the books were announced. It's just how I'm gonna quickly talk about them. The first book is The Islands by Deion Irving, which I just finished and I'm gonna talk about in a video that I will release in just a week. I read it on vacation, and this is a short story collection featuring largely stories about Jamaican women but living across the world and kind of their struggles, mostly surrounding loss and home and colonialism and belonging. And I really enjoyed this. I'm really happy it made it to the shortlist. Again, like I've said a million times, short story collections are hit or miss for me, but this one was definitely a hit. I really liked it, and I won't say much more because I definitely talk about it a lot more in another video. The next book that I read is All the Color in the World by C.S. Richardson, and this is a book I wasn't totally sure if I would like. It is the first one I read. I only have read actually 2 books on the long list total, and so I'm glad that the 2 that I read did make it to the shortlist. But yeah, this is a book that I wasn't totally sure I'd be in love with. The writing style is very different from what I usually read. It was essentially like short paragraphs on each page, and the narrative kind of moves forward like that. I don't want to say the book wasn't like deep or going into depth about things, because it definitely was, but there was not a lot of dialogue, and some things were definitely kind of, I don't want to say skimmed over either, but just looked at kind of in a cursory way. But despite this, it did go deep. It was very emotional, and I really like the focus on art and history in this book. The sort of main narrative was broken up by mentions of art, of history, and I was looking a lot of things up because I hadn't heard of a lot of it before. Sometimes an art piece would be described and be like, I've never seen this before, so I wanted to check it out. So that was actually a really cool addition, and I'm glad this has made it onto the shortlist too. The Double Life of Benson by Kevin Chong is one of the books that I was not necessarily interested in reading on the long list, but I will probably check out now. The description of this book made it kind of hard for me to understand what it was necessarily about. It does seem like a very sort of meta novel about a young boy who grows up. He's living with his sick grandmother, and when she's unable to care for him, he ends up being put under the care of one of his neighbors who seems to be kind of weird. But later, as he grows up, he sort of seems to like rewrite his childhood story and sort of add different elements to it. So I think it's kind of like 2 stories in one, and again, it's kind of like meta. And so that's not exactly the type of book I usually like to read. I don't like to be super confused in books, and I'm not a huge fan of like things that are meta, mostly in movies. And I don't know that I've read too many books like that, but I'm definitely willing to give it a chance. I have heard some good things about it, and people were definitely excited about it making the shortlist. Next we have Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein, and this book has been nominated for at least the Booker Prize 2023, and I think a couple other things. So I was hearing that maybe this wouldn't get nominated or like shortlisted for the Giller Prize because it had already been shortlisted or longlisted for so much, but here it is. I did just buy this like a few days ago actually. This was one that I was pretty excited to read from the start. I just hadn't had a chance to do so yet. I was originally just gonna wait to get the copy at the library, but I'm tired of waiting. I do plan to start this one maybe even today or tomorrow. It does give off kind of like eerie fall vibes. It's about a woman who goes in to become the caretaker in her at her brother's home, and it's kind of like northern, I don't know, I said in my last video village, still don't know if it's a village, but people become kind of suspicious of her, and yeah, it just gives off these sort of like spooky fall vibes. So I'm very excited to finally tackle this one. I mean, I know it's had some sort of like controversial ratings on Goodreads at least, but I don't know, it sounds like something I would enjoy. And lastly, Burnham Wood by Eleanor Catton, one of the only 2 books on the long list that I recognized initially. This is probably the one that I've been most excited to read. Again, I was also waiting to get this one from the library and just got tired of waiting. When I was on a layover in Munich from my last trip that I just got back from, found this at a bookstore, and I was like, why not? I'll pick it up. I like that it's soft cover. I'm not the biggest fan of hardcover books, and they're also super expensive. But I'm so glad to finally have this one. I also think I'll start it pretty soon. It is one of the longer ones. But yeah, this one sounds super exciting. I really want to read about this guerrilla gardening group and how they sort of tackle this relationship that they end up forming with this eccentric billionaire, and they try to share land with him to sort of, I don't know, he wants to build a compound on it, and I assume they want to do some gardening on it. And I feel like it's going to be a very fraught and interesting relationship. Yeah, that's the shortlist. Starting next week, I know that the shortlist authors are embarking on a tour across a few cities in Canada, and Vancouver is one of those cities. So I'm going to be hopefully attending that, and I assume they'll just be talking about the prize, their books, and so I would like to try to read at least one more, probably A Study for Obedience before that. I don't know if I probably won't have a chance to talk to the authors, but maybe there'll be some Q&A or something to be involved in. I don't know if I'll have like a chance to film any aspect of that, but I would definitely, I'm definitely excited for it. I'm really curious, are there any books that surprised you on the shortlist or surprised you that didn't make it onto the shortlist? I very much did not have predictions for this. Again, I only read 2 books, and it's just kind of wild that they both made it onto the shortlist, but I didn't have any predictions at all. I just had no idea. Are there any shortlisted books that you're super excited to get to next, or are there some long-listed books that you still want to tackle first? I'm really, really curious to hear about that. Hope everyone watching has a super nice day, and as always, please like, please subscribe if you haven't already. Support means a lot, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video.